Let us first talk about the good. Momentous events in history, great events, path-breaking conferences are remembered by generations by sometimes one single image, a photograph, or a gesture which sums up the passage of history. The Vietnam War, even today, is remembered by the heart-stopping picture of a young Vietnamese girl, Pan Kim Phuc, running naked on a road escaping a napalm attack. The famous photo of a soldier and a girl kissing passionately in Times Square captured the essence of the joy and relief sweeping the world at the end of the Second World War. By those standards, what will be the path-breaking G20 conference remembered for? Surely, it is the deeply moving picture of 30 heads of state standing around Gandhi's Samadhi at Rajghat, paying silent, heartfelt homage to him. It is this picture that symbolized all the good that came out of a broken world of nations divided against each other by hate and sectarian division, split by ambition and pride and territorial greed. It was a moment in time when we all forgot our differences and stood in silence and peace and hope, desirous of a settled and calm world, not divided by war, but united by peace and prosperity. And the resonating message of Gandhi and the superhuman effort put in by the host country, that is India, made it all possible, at least for the moment when their heads of state stood united around Gandhi's Samadhi. This is the supreme good that came out of the G20. There was a message of hope, and that perhaps, just perhaps, better days lie ahead. And this message resonated because it was arrived by democratic consensus of the G20. What did it really mean? The key words here are democratic consensus. And this can only happen if the host country can usher in this consensus and persuade all sides to bring out a common joint declaration. Now, can totalitarian regimes like North Korea, China, or even Russia, for that matter, ever hope to achieve such a nobility of purpose? Unlikely at the very least. Only a full-fledged democracy, a real democracy like India, can bring all sides together and help reach that consensus. So, to my mind, the democratic dividend was the real great achievement of G20, and not scoring of minor victories like putting China in its place or of building alternative mega transport system spanning continents as an alternative to the One Belt, One Road, or for that matter, even the inclusion of Africa in G20. The summit forever buried the lie, popular in some Western circles, that India is a half-baked democracy and it stifles freedom of expression and muzzles the media and independent thinking. The two-day summit was in fact a riot festival of color, clothes, food, and exchange of ideas and diverse thinking in every possible way. Only a truly democratic country can put up such a show. India did just that. And not only the global south, but the developed world understood the message India was sending across and applauded our efforts. The good coming out of the summit then must be seen in the context that globally, the world, especially the Western developed world, appreciated the democratic roots of India, which are civilizational and contemporary at the same time. And most important, it does not rely on the jaundiced opinion of some Indian academic and intellectual elite settled abroad, which has a one-point agenda of running down the country of their origin. But along with the good, the bad and the ugly, that they can never be far behind. And surely the tag of being the bad end of the summit must jointly be shared by the Canadian Prime Minister and our local Delhi politicians. The Canadian top man defended the indefensible when he championed the cause of Khalistan separatists within a day of shaking hands with our Prime Minister. Democratic freedom is not shorthand for democratic anarchy, especially at the cost of another country's sovereignty. The pettiness of the Canadian Prime Minister had to be seen to be believed. And so was the pettiness of local councillors who rushed to click pictures of a bit of waterlogging to post exaggerated stories as if the summit venue was sinking under water. The band gave way to ugliness when, in a European capital, a top leader of the opposition held out a threat and, to quote him, "We will make an example of people who have tampered with our institutions." Questions will be asked. How will you do that? By violence or coercion, or what are the gambit? And more important, are you judge, jury, and executioner? And is this your idea of a liberal society, freedom of expression, and a philosophy euphemistically called Muhabbat ki Dukaan? And not to be left behind in spouting utter rubbish and garbage, a young IIT professor of philosophy in a late-night interview to France 24 channel at the G20 summit called for the dismantling of Hinduism, no less. If the summit re-emphasized India's deep-rooted democratic credentials, then it has also exposed the worst of Indian society who deftly use the liberal narrative and nomenclature to get their way through with fascist methods, abuse, and distortion. And despite all that they continue to do and what they do or spread their filth, because no one really books them. Try doing that in Russia or in some such country, and then perhaps the true meanings of the word democratic dividend will become clearer to them. And so on this note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA Show. I hope you really enjoyed the CAA Show. If you like the show, do subscribe to us. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.